Hey guys, welcome back to my house. If you're new here, my name is Kiera, and today we are going to be starting some seeds together. So I've actually started a lot of my seeds for this upcoming garden year, but I have more to start. And so I wanted to take you guys along with me and just kind of show you how I do this. First of all, let me say there are a lot of different ways that you can start seeds. And also, I'm not an expert at this. This is something that for me is definitely a learning curve still, but I'm getting better at it every year. So yeah, I thought it'd be fun if we just hang out together and show you how I am starting these seeds. So most of what I'm starting today, I have labeled here. I have some amaranth, a couple zinnias. I'm redoing some tomatillos. I started those earlier, but they didn't really germinate well. And then I have some herbs back here and a couple tomatoes. So there's some things on here that I actually got new seeds from a seed swap that I went to. And so I definitely wanted to start those, like orange jazz tomato. I got a white cherry tomato, and then these cool crayon colors zinnias. I have to have that. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I'm like, if it's crayon colors, I need to have it in my garden this year, and I don't want to wait. One thing that I do just right off the bat when I'm starting seeds is I tend to do something like this. You can see I have a whole bunch of different colors in here. This is not at all something that you need to do, but I got these new seeds tray things, cell starters from Bootstrap Farmer. I really love their products. They last a really long time. I've used all sorts of stuff, and the cheap stuff, I've used it until it broke on me the first year and then kept using it. So I finally invested in some really nice 6-cell seed starters this year. And what I like to do with them, I like to color code so that it's just another labeling system for me, so that when I'm out in my garden, I can kind of see what's what because I have different colors in here. And what I do is before I go outside, I plan what I'm gonna have, and I just kind of stick the seed packet in front, and then I have all the different colors behind them. And what I'll do now is I'll take a picture of this. I'll take all the seed packets out, fill these with soil, and then I will use the picture that I took to create my markers so that I know what I wanted to plant, like how much of each thing and all of that kind of stuff. So again, this is not something you have to have or do at all. It's just something that I like to do. The first thing I do when I start my seedlings is I actually sift out the soil. So we just get regular potting soil for our seedlings. We don't get seed starting mix or anything like that. And this bag here is just what they had at the local box store because that was where we were. This isn't even the brand that I normally get. This is something also that you really don't have to do. This is an extra for me. I started doing this last year because my favorite potting soil that I usually get, I noticed was kind of inconsistent last year, and there were just a ton of rocks and really big pieces of like wood chips in it. And it would have been totally fine if we were putting that, in actual pots in our garden or in our garden beds. But for the seed starting, I wanted something that was a little bit finer. So Andrew built this kind of like sieve for us, and we actually built this originally for compost, but it works really great for this too. And what I'm doing here is I'm just rubbing the soil through this and hopefully just getting out the biggest of the rocks or bark or whatever's in there. And I'm doing this so that my seedlings will just have a softer medium that they're growing in. Last year when I did this for the first time, I really liked the results. I like that my seedlings grew really well. They kind of like popped out of the ground faster. And so I decided that I would do this again, especially since this was, not even the normal potting soil that I get. And I'm really glad I did this. So you can start to see here that there's a fair amount of like big pieces in here. And especially when we're talking about really, really small seeds, they could easily make it so that those seedlings can't pop out of the ground or they can't come up. And so it was really nice to just kind of like get all that big stuff out. And then once I was done with it, The big stuff definitely doesn't go to waste. I'm putting it in this box here, and what we're gonna do is we're just gonna dump that entire box into our garden beds. It's still really good material as far as growing bigger plants and stuff like that, but you can see here the texture of that is really coarse. So I'm just gonna sprinkle that around in the garden beds so that one, we're not wasting anything, and two, I mean, we paid for it, so I'm gonna use what we have. And then once that's done and everything is smooth and lovely, I fill up my seed starting trays. So I like to do it this way over wheelbarrow just because it is a lot cleaner. I used to do this with a big mixing bowl inside my house and it was fine, but I got dirt everywhere and I had to like scoop it up and, you know, clean a lot. And it's so much nicer to just have a wheelbarrow or something like a big tub where you can do this outside. And what I'm doing here is I'm kind of like tapping down so that the soil goes all the way to the bottom of these trays. One thing that I actually really like about these trays is that you can see if the soil isn't all the way down. When I had like the, you know, cheaper plastic trays, you really can't tell. You kind of have to hope for the best. And there have definitely been some gaps. And this is another reason why taking all the big stuff out actually really helps, because sometimes like you'll have a big piece of mulch or wood or something like that that's stuck in the bottom and it's keeping all the soil from actually going to the bottom of the tray. So if you top water mostly, the soil will go down and level out with your seedlings, but I really like to put water in the bottom of my tray and then have it soak up from the bottom of the tray, which is called bottom watering. So I want to make sure that the soil goes all the way to the bottom of these plugs just so that it is actually efficiently soaking up the water and giving me healthier seedlings. So this is usually the part of seed starting that I do inside, but we're gonna do it outside today. Silly me, I started my dishwasher, so I don't think you guys could actually hear me inside. And I only have a short amount of time to do this because I do most of my gardening projects during nap times. So let's just knock this out and I'm just gonna have to suffer the cold. It's not that cold out here. I'm a Californian. Actually I'm a frost tinder flower. Yeah, this sweater is very mean. But anyway, I'll put actually the weather on the screen. It's not that cold out here. I don't like being cold. Oh, okay. Um, so the first thing I'm gonna do is, since I have my color coding here, I'm gonna put all my tags in. And in order to do that, I need to see the picture that is on my phone, which I'm filming on. So pause real quick and I will see you when I have all the tags. Now for my tags, what I do is, there's not really anything special about it. I just put, drop that. So I just put the variety and like the date that I started on it. So this one says Crayon Zinnia 2/8. And I stick that in there. For some of the cells, I will do 2 tags like this, and that basically is showing that I have 3 of each kind. It's usually for stuff that I don't want a ton of. Everything else, I just kind of give it its own 6-pack cell. And then another thing that I do is I actually usually plant 2 seeds in each cell, which I will show you. A lot of people, when they seed start, they will actually wet their soil first and then put their seeds in. And that's a good way to do it so that you're not like disturbing the seeds as much, especially like really small things. So I actually prefer working with soil that's not wet because it's just a little bit cleaner. It makes it just easier for me to wash my hands and kind of go back to what I was doing before, especially since, you know, most of the time I'm gardening in very short amounts of time. So these are zinnia seeds. You can see they're really kind of big, and you see that right there. It's kind of big for a seed. And one thing that you want to do is kind of a rule of thumb for seeds is you want to plant them twice as deep as the seed is long or wide. And it actually says on most seed packets. I have a full like how to read a seed packet video. If you're interested in checking that out, I'll link it down below. It's in my beginner gardener playlist. But it will also tell you on the back of the seed packet a lot of times how deep to put them into the soil. So this one says about a ½ inch deep, which makes sense because these look to be about a ½ inch-ish wide or long. And so I'm gonna kind of pat in the holes here. I'm not being too, delicate about it or anything like that. Oh, see this cell, I just found an air hole in it, so I'm gonna pat that down. But I just kind of go like that with a chopstick and throw the seeds in. I like to put 2 seeds in each cell to kind of like maximize my chances and also maximize my space. So even for things that I know I want a lot of, like tomatoes, like for instance Roma tomatoes, I know I want a lot of those, and I will still start them with 2 in each cell, even though my germination rate for those is pretty close to 100%, because I want to save space when I'm actually seed starting. Because with things like tomatoes, I know I'm going to up pot them. And so if I can save a little bit of space while they're just kind of germinating and coming up, then I want to do that. So I place these zinnia seeds in here, put the rest back in, put this over here so I don't mess it up. And then what I do is I just kind of like tuck the seeds into the holes with the chopstick. I like to kind of do all of one process at once. Sometimes I skip around, but it's usually how I do it. So I tuck those in and then I cover all the holes at once. Really easy. I just planted 12 zinnia seeds in less than a minute. So the next one I'm doing is this dwarf thumbelina mix. I got this from a seed swap, so I'm really excited to try these. If I can get the packet open. Okay, so yeah, then I'll come in here, like I said, with my chopstick, just because it's easy, and I will pack in 2 holes in each one. I kind of like to do it in a diamond shape so that I get 2 seeds, but they also have a good amount of space to grow. And also it's just easier to separate them if I can just kind of break the seed I can break the cell in half. Oops, that was way too many. Let's see. Sometimes I don't even worry about like actually getting them in the hole because I come in with my chopstick. And I also don't worry about if I accidentally put too many. I just kind of keep going and I get what I get. There we go. And then I will make sure all the seeds are in a hole. That one has like 3. There we go. That one has 2. And then I'll come back in and pack the hole closed. There we go. 12 to potentially like 15 more zinnias. All right, it's a couple hours later again. I am back in the house, which is nice. And I'm just on my living room floor. I have this sitting on top of my seed box right now so that you can kind of see what I'm doing a little bit, but here we are. I've shown you kind of just most of my process really for seed starting. It's really simple. And while we had our little break, I was thinking about just why I love starting from seeds so much. And I think the biggest thing is that it's really accessible, which is funny because, before I started actually doing it, like a lot of people, I think, I thought it really wasn't. I thought that it was scary and you had to be kind of like a really good gardener to be able to do it. And it was just like this intense thing that needed a bunch of stuff. And don't get me wrong, like you can go down the rabbit hole and get all the stuff and like learn all the techniques and all that stuff. And it can be really overwhelming. I know I was overwhelmed when I first started learning about it and trying to do it. And there definitely is a learning curve to doing it well. And it's a learning curve that I'm still on, I'm still figuring it out. I will say that every year my seed starts get better and better, but it is one of those things where my seedlings definitely do not come out perfect. Half the time they don't even come out the way I really want them to, and I'm sad about it. Like right now I have a shelf of a whole bunch of seedlings that are leggy, which is when they're like reaching up for the light too much. And I'm trying to troubleshoot that, and I'll show you kind of like what's going on with that, and what I'm doing about it, and we'll kind of see if any of the stuff I'm trying works. We'll figure that out together. But it is one of those things where seed starting is actually way more accessible, I think, than people realize. And I feel like there's a camp of people that are really trying to tell people like it's not as scary as you think it is. You can totally do this. And then there's kind of this like weird camp of gatekeepers, I don't know, where you feel like it has to be done a certain way, or like you're like not a real gardener or something like that. And I don't buy into that at all. I think that anyone who's trying to grow a garden, whether that is from seeds or from buying plants or from someone giving you plants, anything that you are trying to keep alive, like if you want to call yourself a gardener, you're a gardener. Even if those things aren't perfect or like perfectly beautiful or ideal or whatever, like I think anyone that's on the journey gets to call themselves a gardener because it's a process and you're learning. But anyway, I feel like seed starting is one of those things that could be a lot more accessible to people if people just got encouragement to try. So you don't even have to like start here with all the stuff that I have or anything like that. Like you can start with egg cartons. You can do like solo cups with holes drilled in the bottom, which I did. You can just like get recycled pots that you bought your plants in before from the nursery, or like, ask a friend if they have any like yogurt containers, or and like drill holes in the bottom of those. Like there's so much that you can do. You learn so much by just trying to figure it out, right? And you also don't have to start trying to grow everything in your garden from seed. Like you can pick things that are more like beginner friendly, like tomatoes or peas or beans. What else is, I have a hit and miss with marigolds. Like sometimes they're really easy, sometimes they're not. Zinnias is another one. Things like that. You can also say like, you know what, I want to try and grow things from seed, but I want to try and grow things that I can just grow directly in my garden and just put the seeds outside because I don't have all the grow lights and stuff for an indoor situation, or I don't have a greenhouse or whatever. Like you can totally do that too. And you can have a lot of really great success trying to grow things like zucchini or yellow squash, things that come up really easy. So don't feel like it has to be an all or nothing thing. It's your garden and it's your gardening experience. And I feel like if you are just getting like the courage to try, I think that that is amazing. And that counts for really like 90% of what you're doing. The other reason why I really love growing things from seed is because I know that I really am into gardening and I really like it. It honestly gives me something to do in the wintertime. So, when it's still cold outside, it gives me something that I can look forward to and I can get excited about. Now, it is hard to find the time to kind of plan out what you want to grow and to start everything and to take care of it. Like, yeah, it's a little bit of work, but I mean, honestly, I check on my seedlings once or twice a day. I water them. The whole thing takes me probably 5-10 minutes, depending on how many times I have to fill up a watering can. And when I think the longest part of the process is when I'm like actually hardening them off and putting them outside for different periods of time every day. I think that takes like the most time. Oh, I dug these holes too, probably too deep for these little seeds. See, these are like itty bitty seeds, and I was gone on automatic. So another thing I love about gardening is if you mess up, you can kind of just redo it. So for these, I'm just going to put them on the soil, on top of the soil, and then just kind of scoot dirt or scoot soil around them. Yeah, I don't remember what I was saying. I'm going to have to pause this and go back and figure it out. Okay, that's what I was talking about. Having something to do in the wintertime. So yeah, it gives me something to look forward to. It gives me something that, I'm excited to see what the new season is like. I absolutely love watching seedlings pop out of the ground or pop out of these little cell trays. I get excited every time. This is my fourth gardening year and it doesn't get old. It just really doesn't. And I love that. I love having something that I can start the year off being really excited about. Oh, these are darling. They're so cute. And so this is the Love Lies Bleeding Amaranth. And I don't know if you can see that. They all just kind of went out of my palm, but they're like reddish. They're kind of like a rose color. Yeah, I love that there's something that I can get excited about and, excited about the promise of it, excited about trying and seeing what results I'm going to get because I'm a student of this and I'm figuring it out. I think one thing that is really amazing about the gardening community is people are so willing to figure it out with you and also like help you. If there's something that they've figured out already and they see that you're struggling with it, like there are some, like I said, there's some gatekeepers and there's some people who, I don't know, it's just like it seems more worthy if it seems hard. But there's just way more people that are willing to like lend a hand and explain things in a simple way. And I appreciate that so much. Let's see what we got next. Okay, peas. These are easy. So these are gigantic. Now, peas are one of those things that if I do start them indoors, which a lot of times I don't, but it's a pea, so that's one seed. And they're so big that I just do one per cell because they also grow really fast and the plants get pretty big. So I don't try to give them roommates. There you go, done. So yeah, if you've ever considered growing something from seed, like I highly recommend just trying it, even if it's one thing. Like if you decide that you really want to have some zinnias in your front yard or in a couple pots, on your patio, get like a mixed zinnia pack. That's what I started with. The first flower that I ever grew was a mixed zinnia pack. And I just kind of like threw them everywhere. I had no idea what I was doing. And I had this beautiful oasis for like butterflies and bees and like all this stuff. It was just magical. And I will forever do that in every garden that I have. I will always have just zinnias everywhere. You can do like mini sunflowers, which I have those every year. There's just so much that you can do. And I don't want people to think that it's an all or nothing thing, that either that you have to grow a gigantic garden to grow things from seed, or that you even have to grow, like if you do have a gigantic garden, you have to grow all of it from seed. You don't. You can do whatever you want, whatever feels good to you. But I think that it is worth it to try. I think it's worth it to encourage yourself to just see what happens, and leave some space in your life for you to surprise yourself. That's something that I always have to remind myself. Like, I tend to think the worst case in most scenarios of like, I didn't garden forever because I thought I had a black thumb and I couldn't keep anything alive. And what ultimately changed my mind was I was like, well, I would love to be wrong about this. It would be awesome if I was wrong about this and I actually could grow things and I could learn this skill and I could grow something beautiful. Like that'd be amazing. And it really came down to being willing to surprise myself and being willing to be wrong. And I'm so happy that I was wrong about the fact that I can grow stuff, like I'm so happy I was wrong about that because gardening has changed everything in my life. It's changed what I do as for hobbies in my free time. It's changed how I live. It's changed how I eat. It's created different hobbies and like side shoots and other things that I've learned that came from gardening. It's changed how we host parties at our house and how we, invite people in. Like, there's so much magic to it. And I'm so happy that that all started from being wrong about my ability to garden. So I'm going to finish up these last few cells here, but thank you so much for just hanging out with me today as I started these seeds. Oh, these are itty bitty. Oh my gosh. Those are teeny tiny. I don't even know if you can see those. They're so small. Thanks for hanging out with me today as I started seeds. I hope this is an encouragement to you to just give it a shot, see what happens. Maybe you surprise yourself. And if you thought it was something that you couldn't do, maybe you'll find out that you were wrong. And that's kind of awesome. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.